Welcome to Anews. I'm Livestream and you're watching Turkey's Diplomacy. Today, we're breaking down the big moments from the 2025 NATO summit in The Hague. It was a historic first for the Netherlands, hosting all 32 NATO leaders to tackle some serious global security issues. They made waves with a bold plan to ramp up defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035 and double down on supporting Ukraine against Russia's aggression. Joining me on the program today are Daily Sabah's editorial coordinator, Dr. Mehmet Çelik, and political analyst, Dr. Abdunur Tumi.
President of the Republic of Türkiye.
Bölgemiz savaşla, yıkımla, saldırganlıkla, tehditle hiçbir yere ulaşılamayacağının örnekleriyle doludur. Ateşkes ilanının en kısa sürede kalıcı sükunete tahvil edilmesini ümit ediyoruz. Orta Doğu'da barışın temini için müttefikler dahil herkesin elini taşın altına koyması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. İsrail ile Türkiye'nin arasındaki ilişkilerin bu anlayışla devam etmesi halinde burada aramızdaki barış, aramızdaki huzur mümkün değil. Zira atılan adımlar her şeyden önce barışı tehdit ediyor. Atılan adımlar barışı tehdit ettiğine göre burada nasıl barışı temin edeceksiniz, sağlayacaksınız? Mümkün değil. F-35 konusunu tabii görüştük. F-35 konusunda da biz 1 milyar 300-400 milyon dolar gibi bir ödeme yaptık ve F-35'leri alma noktasında biz Sayın Trump'ın da iyi niyetli olduğunu gördük.
Welcome back to the program. Dr. Mehmet Çelik, Daily Sabah's editorial coordinator. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Dr. Mehmet, let's start with Turkish President Erdogan's statements, his press conference that he delivered after the NATO summit ended yesterday. He touched upon some important discussions, such as the F-35 issue, the fight against PKK terror group, and also the Iran-Israel ceasefire. Let's start with the PKK terrorism, Mehmet, because I want to focus on that first. He said, someone asked him a question about the terror-free Turkey initiative, and he said that it's going according to plan, and he has meetings scheduled with leaders from the DEM party. So how are you analyzing that part, Mehmet?
Well, first of all, we know that terror-free initiative was launched a while back, and it's a long process, but significant steps have been taken to eliminate terror, PKK terrorism from Turkey's agenda. For 4 decades, it was keeping Turkey busy, not only economically and militarily and politically, but also Turkey suffered when it comes to nearly 40,000 people's lives were lost. So we've had this pain that was caused by terrorism, and Turkey has largely eliminated that within its borders, and also has carried out very significant and effective operations against the PKK in northern Iraq as well as northern Syria with the PKK offshoot YPG. So the terror group's operational effectiveness has been minimized, but nevertheless, I think there is still that need for a political solution, or bringing this issue to a political platform to permanently eliminate this problem from Turkey's agenda. But Erdogan voiced the terrorism issue, and he made remarks about this during his press conference yesterday in The Hague, because of this issue that Turkey has been dealing with for a long time now, the terrorism problem, and the lack of support that Turkey had to deal with from the NATO allies. Turkey was in a way left alone in its fight against terrorism when it comes to receiving support from the NATO allies. Turkey was attacked from northern Syria and northern Iraq and has been attacked previously. But at the same time, we didn't receive any support from our NATO allies to, to protect, let's say, to bring in air defense systems. But not only that, some of Turkey's NATO allies supported the PKK terrorist groups militarily, politically, in northern Syria, northern Iraq. I mean, the YPG was supplied with hundreds, truckloads of weaponry and equipment by the United States under the pretext of fighting against Daesh. But in addition to that, I think PKK received political support from many European capitals, Turkey's NATO allies, and the PKK was using European capitals as a safe haven for their fundraising, recruiting, and many other activities. So Turkey has always brought this issue to the table, to the agenda, because Turkey has suffered from the PKK for many decades, and Turkey did not receive the help that it wanted or it needed at the time where it was having direct military confrontation with these terrorist groups from its NATO allies. So I think it was a very, very important issue that Mr. Erdogan touched upon, and I think, Turkey as a big pillar of this security alliance, and in an alliance where all the members are supposed to take care of each other or support each other in face of any challenges, security challenges, Turkey did not receive this support, and Turkey's NATO allies failed to, for one reason or another, mostly politically motivated reasons, they didn't actually support Turkey in its fight against terrorism.
Mehmet, also, he was asked if, the previous meetings regarding Ukraine and Russia, which were held in Turkey, a reporter asked the Turkish president if, the results have been effective and are you satisfied with those results? And he said the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has been leading those meetings and he's been negotiating with the delegations. So do you agree with the Turkish president when he said that, we have achieved the desired results from these meetings and we will continue to work on further meetings as well?
Well, I think, his question was in response to the criticism that Mr. Putin sent a delegation that didn't actually meet the same level as the Ukrainian side in terms of their ranking. But I think, to agree or disagree with Mr. Erdogan whether the meetings achieved their results or the results were satisfactory. The ultimate aim is to achieve some sort of ceasefire or bringing leaders to the table where they can concretely negotiate the ceasefire deals. So if this was the ultimate aim, of course, this wasn't achieved during the meeting. So, that's one thing. But on the other hand, I think the fact that they were able to meet, the fact that a table was set up for this diplomatic meeting and the negotiations took place in 2 meetings, I think this is a big success on Turkey's part, a country that has both good relations with Russia and Ukraine. And Turkey is the only country that is able to do able to hold these meetings, able to host these negotiations. And Turkey is the only country that is able to establish a communication channel between the two sides and bringing them in face-to-face meeting in Istanbul. So in that sense, of course, it's a big success. Not for only Turkey, but for the international. It is a success that would facilitate at least some sort of dialogue between the two sides, where, so far we have achieved prisoners exchange. So far, a grain deal was achieved through Turkey's diplomatic efforts. So in that sense, of course, it is a big success. But if the ultimate aim is to achieve a ceasefire, I think the sides are still reluctant on, bringing all the issues on the table and actually try to or have this willingness to solve this issue. But in addition to Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine, there's of course the European Union and Europe in general, and the United States that are also part of these talks indirectly. So their influence also shaped these talks. Their influence on Ukraine. Decision-making also is significant, and I think it is not just a bilateral meeting, but it's rather a meeting that is Russia is on the one side, and Ukraine, as well as Europe and United States on the other side. So when there is so many actors involved directly or indirectly in the decision-making processes in part of Ukraine, it makes, I think, this job a little more difficult. But nevertheless, I think Turkey's willingness to facilitate these, and the fact that these meetings are concretely established, I think it's a big success.
Mehmet, Erdogan and Trump met after 6 years. And we all know about their relationship. They were standing together in the family photo as well. And, the Turkish media has also said the relations are good. And, many things can be discussed based on this relationship. And some of the things that are ongoing are, the F-35 jets deal. Erdogan also commented about that. He said that talks are ongoing and we're expecting a positive response from the United States. He also said that the S-400 issue is not in discussion anymore. So when someone asked him about what's going to happen with the S-400 air defense systems, he said, that's out of the discussion. So can we hope something on that? And, can we expect Turkey to, because also Erdogan said that we've paid $1 billion for those jets and we still haven't received them. So, considering their bilateral ties as well, Erdogan said 100 billion trade volume, that's what they're targeting with the United States. So how do you look at the, relationship between the two presidents?
Well, the relationship between the two presidents, of course, is a no match to the previous term during Biden's administration, where it basically didn't exist. I mean, Mr. Erdogan and Mr. Biden didn't exchange any bilateral visits to talk about these bilateral issues. They have met on the sidelines of other meetings, but to have a direct meeting in Washington or in Turkey, that didn't happen. Nevertheless, I think institutionally there were some sort of reconciliation in terms of the ties, but it didn't actually produce any tangible results. With Trump and his own style of achieving results, I mean, he's the type of guy that says, okay, let's get this done, and it gets done. And Mr. Erdogan is all about bringing solutions to the table rather than lingering some of the issues that affect directly bilateral ties. So with the F-35s, of course, Turkey was unfairly kicked out of this program due to Turkey acquiring the S-400s from Russia. But this was due to a need that Turkey had in terms of air defense systems. And NATO allies didn't actually support Turkey when it comes to that. So they had to look for alternatives, and they did, and they purchased it. And this is their Turkey's sovereign decision. Now, when it comes to F-35s, I think it is still a technical meeting and technical issue which needs to be solved on Washington's side because Turkey has paid some money, and it didn't actually get a refund even when Turkey was kicked out of the program. I think with Trump's close tie with Mr. Erdogan, not only the F-35 issue, but some of the other defense-related issue when it comes to F-16's modernization issue and modernization kits, etc. These will be easier to at least discuss and negotiate, and perhaps concretely find a solution, bringing this issue to a solution during this term. But it is something that will require a little more time.
Mehmet, let's talk about Trump's press conference. Now, we were expecting the same, his aggressive style, his combative style that he has always, portrayed in front of world media. And, we saw during the press conference that he was continuously, touting his foreign policy, that we, stopped the war between Iran and Israel. We stopped the war between, the operations that were ongoing between India and Pakistan. We were responsible for that. And he also mentioned how the Pakistani general visited him and they discussed about trade. Mehmet, you also said this before, and you've said this previously on many occasions, that, Trump loves to make deals. And he said that as well. He said, wherever Trump goes, he's making deals. So do you think this entire issue is being looked at, more from a business perspective rather than, a humanistic approach?
Well, there's no humanistic approach in international relations. Everybody seeks to maximize their interests through one way or another. Okay? So when this is the case, especially on the United States side, Trump has his own personal style of communicating this with the world. He says we make business deals. Others say use a different language and different terminology. They have a different style of communicating this. But still, United States wants to maximize its interests, be it through any deals, military deals or otherwise. So how Trump is looking at this is, I mean, in terms of what happened between Israel and Iran, between India and Pakistan, when it comes to the fact that NATO is now boosting its security defense spending from 2% to 5%. These are all the things that Trump wants because it puts him on the highlight. And Trump likes to be on the spotlight. He likes the optics. He likes to be lauded for what is actually being established or what is achieved. And it was a big show during his press conference that he wanted to mention that several times. He repeated himself when it comes to the B-2 bombers targeting Iran's nuclear facilities several times. I couldn't even count how many times he said we've done a great job there. And I mean, he was, of course, responding to some of the reports that said, you know, this wasn't as effective as Trump puts it, based on some preliminary reports. But still, I think he was targeting some of the media groups that had, presented these reports. And he said we did a great job, more than several times. Repeatedly, he focused on how this was a successful operation. And because, in a way, he used his press conference to celebrate, I think, what he calls as an achievement. But like I said, in the international relations, that humanistic approach or the idea that international relations can be, based on some humanitarian principles or liberal principles, this is not something that many countries practices anymore, or they believe in that idea even. They have failed. The idealism, liberalism, these approaches didn't produce, I think, the outcomes that they had desired. This is why all the countries are now employing a more realist approach in international relations when it comes to international relations theories. They want to maximize their relations, and I think they find that if they don't do that, they are losing from that interest or from that profit that they can make. And when in the attempt or in the process of doing or maximizing their interests, all goes. So there's no permanent friendships and enmities. I mean, we talk about Russia and Iran. We talk about Israel and Iran and the United States. They were bombing each other. The next day, they will sit down and make a deal. Tomorrow, what will unfold, we don't know. But right now, we know that in the international arena, Russia, China, India, Pakistan, United States, Turkey, everybody is trying to maximize what they can get in terms of their interest based on their power. Of course, not every country is a United States or Russia. Not every country is also a Turkey. Everybody tries to act within reason, rationally, to try to maximize their interests based on the power that they have. The perceived power, perceived prestige also play a big role. But nevertheless, that material capability or their capacity in terms of economic capacity, military capability, these all play a big role in terms of the steps that they are able to take when it comes to securing their interests. And this is what the United States is doing. The United States is a superpower. It has the military capacity, economic capacity, and all the other important factors, important determinants when it comes to how to measure their power. They are aware of that, and they secure their interests in the way that they would like to do that. One day, if they want to go and bomb Iraq because there's their interest in terms of energy there, they will go and do that. They will find an excuse to do it. If they want to go if they have an interest in bombing in Iran, or if they have an interest on eliminating the regime Iran, they will do that. They will do it militarily or otherwise.
Mehmet, something that's very surprising, and we heard it from the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. He said he called Trump the daddy. Now, there are lots of debates that are going on. He's being criticized. Why did he use such a term to describe President Trump? What do you make of this statement and, what has happened over the past few days? Mark Rutte has also said that, it was like a joke and, we're not saying that he controls everything. But do you think that, such statements show that Europe is, submitting itself in front of the United States and, European leaders want the United States and Trump to lead global conflicts or, even global organizations?
Well, I wouldn't push it that far, but I think the language, we shouldn't put a lot of meaning into that. The same question was also asked to ask Trump. I think Rutte, not knowing Trump's style, I think he played for that style. But I don't think it is. Of course, Europe, I think, recognizes and realizes that without United States, NATO security alliance will have a big empty hole that will be hard to fill unless they have a very significant improvement in their defense spending. And I'm not sure if that all the European countries are ready to take part in that effort to fill a big blank or big void if the United States is not in the picture. But I wouldn't read much more into that daddy use of that terminology beyond, I think it's an instantaneous joke that came out. But I think in the background of that psyche, of course, Europe realizes how important United States is for NATO. If this is a submission, I wouldn't call it a submission, but I would call it, I think acknowledging or at least showing that acknowledgement to a leader that needs that ego sometimes highlighted.
Mehmet, thanks for that analysis. We'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at this news report and we'll be right back.
War is always changing as technology advances. And in a bid to increase their country's defence capabilities, NATO leaders have endorsed a big new spending target at a summit in The Hague. NATO members will aim to spend 5% of their economic output on defence, a big increase on the current goal of 2% agreed at a 2014 summit. That's 3.5% of their GDP on core defence, such as troops and weapons, and 1.5% on broader defence and security-related investments, such as cybersecurity, protecting energy pipelines and adapting infrastructure for military vehicles. Hitting these targets could eventually mean spending hundreds of billions of dollars more a year. Doubling down on cyber investment is one of the ways to improve the alliance's defence. That's according to Benjamin Jensen, an international relations and security specialist.
So I think the biggest challenge for NATO on the horizon is the intersection of the low cost of shooting waves and waves of long-range attack drones alongside rapid targeting adjustment using AI and offensive cyber. Russia has proven it will attack NATO member states with cyber any time of the day.
And money could be used strategically. Due to technology, he said, low-cost systems like $1,000 drones can now destroy high-cost assets like planes.
In the ideal case, we would have entire NATO drone brigades like what we see in actually Ukraine, but maybe manned by a multinational battalion or battle group.
Moscow's continued war in Ukraine is one reason, along with concerns about a possible future threat from Russia. That's alongside pressure from US President Donald Trump to boost investment. Europe's preparing for the possibility that Washington will withdraw some of its troops and capabilities. Targets are expected to be met in 2035, but can also be adjusted when they're reviewed in 2029.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's take a look at the front page of Daily Sabah. Mehmet, Turkey's role grows in NATO shift. We've been talking about this for a very long time, how Turkey has been an important member of the NATO organization and also has the second biggest army. But, when we spoke about, earlier how Turkey is a part of NATO, we were talking about, Mehmet, Turkey's role with the United States as well, the F-35 jets and other issues within the organization. But yesterday, Mehmet, Erdogan also spoke about Gaza and Turkey's relationship with Israel. Let's hear more from you.
So, very rightly you mentioned about Turkey's security role or defense role in NATO. Turkey is the second largest army with following the United States with over 400,000 soldiers. But in terms of defense industry, Turkey has seen a very huge growth, and the spending is already surpassing the 2% that was in place, and it will be easy to meet that 5% as well. Nevertheless, I think what he was talking about yesterday, and even Mr. Rutte a day before the summit mentioned, is the political barriers or some of the barriers within NATO itself towards Turkey in terms of security cooperation and defense cooperation. And this was something that he criticized, Mr. Rutte criticized, and Mr. Erdogan also during his press conference, he mentioned that Turkey can play a very significant role in terms of boosting NATO's defense and security new architecture that they want to improve. But I think the reluctance comes from very ideologically or politically motivated stances of some of the Europeans or other countries within NATO, other members within NATO, towards Turkey. If that is eliminated, I think that security mechanism and defense mechanism can be very much stronger in terms of fully incorporating Turkey's defense capacity into the bloc. So that's a very important issue. On the other hand, I think what was the highlight of perhaps one of the biggest highlights of Erdogan's press conference yesterday was Turkey's stance on Gaza. He was perhaps the only leader that actually brought this issue very strongly and verbally. He voiced the humanitarian crisis that is taking place right now in Gaza. Turkey and Mr. Erdogan used every international platform to still very firmly voice Turkey's, the support for the Palestinians, but also to bring out this very dark moment in history to the agenda of the international community. And there's a genocide taking place there. And nobody has the luxury to ignore what is taking place when the babies are starving and they have literally no access to food and other basic needs. And this is happening before the world's eyes. And Mr. Erdogan once again voiced this, the issue in the Middle East, the bleeding wound in Gaza, and the reluctance of international community to interfere or at least to condemn even what's Israel doing again towards Palestinians there. So I think that's important. But in terms of normalization with Israel, until this is solved, until there is a humanitarian, they can receive humanitarian aid, until the civilians are not bombed anymore, it will be very difficult for Turkey to normalize ties with Israel.
Mehmet, one more thing. Why did other world leaders not talk about Gaza? Because Turkey was the only country and President Erdogan was the only leader who spoke about Gaza. What are they afraid of? Why are they not, trying to shift the focus on Gaza and on people in the occupied Gaza Strip? Because there are world leaders from probably all the top countries in the world, the West, Germany, France, Italy. But why are they still hesitant?
Well, first of all, I mean, technically, this is not, this wasn't on the agenda, perhaps. The spending, defense spending, as well as Ukraine conflict is the top issues on the agenda. But it's still, I think it was overshadowed with the very recent conflict between Israel and Iran. But there is this, of course, reluctance to bring Gaza issue because it doesn't serve their own positions where they support Israel and they pay a very small lip service when it comes to highlighting the humanitarian crisis there. Europeans, they don't see Israel as a destabilizing actor in the region. And this is what Mr. Erdogan said. Israel is a destabilizer in the region, and you cannot achieve peace. You cannot achieve any solutions to the problems by just simply going and attacking or targeting civilians or attacking other countries. Israel has attacked Iran, Lebanon, and Syria, and as well as Yemen, as well as the genocide taking place in Gaza. You cannot bring peace to these lands or to this geography by, irresponsibly or in a manner that you don't find any international law, international humanitarian law to be any rules that can stop you or limit you from doing these things. You freely go ahead and bomb another territory because you think that they don't align with your views, basically. So I think that needs to be eliminated for this region to find stability. Is there no problems? Of course there is problems. There's many problems that the people of this region have been facing. But I think diplomacy or negotiations and talks, if they're eliminated, then we only see bloodshed and we only see tears to this region.
Mehmet, thanks for that analysis. And we'll continue to monitor all these reports as well, and obviously what role Turkey can play. And the next summit is also going to be held in Turkey, so we're obviously looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at this news report, and we'll be right back.
Palestinians in Gaza City voiced their concerns as Israeli forces ordered new evacuations. The Israeli military dropped leaflets over several areas in North Gaza ordering residents to leave their homes and head towards the south, in what appeared to herald renewed Israeli military strikes. Showing an evacuation order on his mobile phone asking to go to Al-Mawasi in Khan Yunis, Palestinian Abu Ahmed said that he is tired of repeated evacuation orders.
وين ننزح نروح؟ كل يوم خريطة إخلاء جديدة، جباليا، التفاح، طب وين نروح يا عمي؟ وين؟ فضيلنا هلقيتها خلص من إيران وجانا دورنا، طب إحنا يا رب نقول قاعدين، بنشتري لنا حطبة بيجي الجيش بيهجم علينا بروح الحطبات بنقعد في الشارع، إيش نعمل؟ إيش الحل؟ إيش الحل؟ حلونا يا عالم.
Israel's subsequent air and ground war in Gaza has killed over 56,000 Palestinians, while displacing almost the entire population of more than 2 million and spreading a hunger crisis.
لا يوجد أي خيار إلا أن نبقى موجودين في منطقة شمال قطاع غزة وفي مدينة غزة على أكثر تقدير. لا يمكن التوجه إلى هذه المناطق كونها غير آمنة وكونها مكلفة وكونها تفتقر إلى أي مقومات أساسية. لا يوجد خيام، لا يوجد أي بيئة آمنة. جربنا النزوح مرارا وتكرارا واكتوينا بنار النزوح نحو الجنوب. لا يمكن أن يتكرر هذا السيناريو وهذا المسلسل العفن الذي تمارس علينا قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي.
Welcome back to the program. Joining us now from the French capital is Dr. Abdunnour Toumi. He's a Middle East political analyst. Dr. Toumi, welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the show. And my special greeting to Dr. Gilles.
Thank you, Dr. Toumi.
Dr. Toumi, the past few weeks have been dominated by the Iran-Israel crisis. So, looking at the events that have taken place over the last few days, people are still getting killed in the occupied Gaza Strip while searching for food. Do you think the Gaza issue has been sidelined to some extent?
Actually, this is an excellent question. And this is the objective, if not the strategic objective, of the Prime Minister of Israel. And he tried to do that since the November last year. But his strategy didn't work. And he has been also calling to go and I guess Iran for, as we all know now, for decades. And it's his strategy to some extent, or now it has become clear, to drag the US to clash directly with the Iranians. And this has worked for him in these 12 days of the open war. But what is actually the point is missing in here, it's not because of the quote unquote the passivity of the leaders in the region, and notably the Arab leaders in the region, and how they have those Arab leaders who have been siding the Palestinian, putting Palestinian cause on the side until the Al-Aqsa flood operation on October 7, 2023, that did unmask all their passivity. So, and the world now, especially the hypocrite Westerners who have been showing like strong and unconditional support for Israel to go, and again, quote unquote, after the Iranian allies in the region. And now, since they thought, like the Prime Minister of Israel, they did side these threats, now they pushed to go after Iran in, like, on the alibi of going after the nuclear, Iranian nuclear program. And then there are other points popped up, like the ballistic missiles, and then the fall of the regime. So all these elements actually are not working for the stability in the region, nor for the security of Israel. And this is why, in light of what happened in the last minute and on that Monday, this last Monday night, calling for, actually, it's not a ceasefire. I mean, humbly, I would just put it in a deal, like President Donald Trump likes deals. He doesn't really like, to have sustained ceasefire in the region. What is missing again here is the core of this instability and of this injustice. It's about pushing seriously for the self-determination of the Palestinians' rights to have their statehood. And this is, again, now, and actually, as I said, your question was excellent and pertinent, because now they are trying to focus on Iran and Israel and leaving the core of the question of the Palestinian cause in the entire region. And this is why now, and if, again, the Americans and President Donald Trump wants real peace, or if he starts with ceasefire and then go for peace, he has to go and challenge seriously the establishment and the leader of the Israelis. Nonetheless, the Arab leaders and regional and the pivotal states in the region now have to, again, show up and say enough, it's enough, because what happened on that June 13, it's, again, a serious parameter shift in the conflict between Israel and Iran on one hand, and the Israel's role in the region. And we saw how just in the night after, or 2 days after the bombing of Iran, we heard or read, of course, about the open appetite of the Israelis to go after Turkey and then after Pakistan, and now lately we are reading going after Qatar and then Algeria and so on. So again, the appetite of the Israelis doesn't stop with Iran, because now they're trying to, again, according to their analysis, they are sided and cornered the Palestinians, but the development on the field are saying the opposite.
Dr. Toumi, you're based in France. You're living in Paris. How's the public sentiment over there? Because at the start of this week, the French Foreign Ministry said that Palestinians in the occupied Gaza Strip should be provided unhindered access to humanitarian aid. And we saw in the last few months how President Emmanuel Macron said that France is close to recognizing the state of Palestine. Even that has been pushed to the side. So how are you viewing the current developments in France?
Actually, there are positive elements coming from this carnage that is taking place in Gaza and the annexation process on the West Bank and the Quds al-Sharif and, occupation of entire Palestine. What is happening now, there is, again, awakening a sentiment that coming, first of all, from the left, and who have left parties, particularly the UNPAC France. I mean, that this party has been a vocal voice on immigration rights and Muslims' rights, Arabs' rights, and now, of course, with the Palestinians, even though the leader of the party and MP at the European Parliament, Ms. Rima Hassan, is still tarnished by the far-right media and political leaders. On the other hand, so President Macron, he is in his, again, they call it here in France at the same time doctrine, which is in French is le en même temps. I mean, I just wrote a piece about it, and it was published at Daily Sabah. It's about the tango dance or tango diplomacy, one step ahead, two steps back. So this is what is making the statements and of President Macron are incoherent, because he is under huge pressure in here, and he doesn't know how to challenge seriously the right and the far-right parties here, and also the media. And there is a solid and strong pro-Israel lobby who is, again, challenging him. Knowing that, President Macron himself, he is now a lame duck president who has been in this political crisis that he provoked a year ago, and now he is very weak. And this is why he cannot, I mean, he has become, to some extent, irrelevant on one hand. Again, as I said, the positive side is there is this movement of its kind of mobility who are saying enough is enough and are like speaking up and taking the street in the large cities in France every Saturday.
Dr. Abdunur Toumi, thank you so much for being on the program. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Dr. Mehmet Çelik, thank you for giving us your valuable time as well.
Thank you much.
That brings us to the end of our program. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.